is an outstanding example of a royal aesthetic. His natural counterpart in dignity is a sovereign who, like a Caesar, could claim that his race comprehended the majesty of kings as well as the sacredness of the gods, who hold even the rulers of men in their power. We have seen that the ancient tradition has this precise significance when it speaks of the essential nature of individuals who can only be either imperial or perfectly awakened. We are close to the summits of the Aryan spiritual world. Being himself awakened, the Buddha wished only to encourage an awakening in those who are capable of it. An awakening, in the first place, of a sense of dignity and of vocation, and in the second, of intellectual intuition. A man who is incapable of intuition, it is said, cannot approve. The noble miracle conforming to the Aryan nature, as opposed to prodigies based on extra-normal phenomena, and considered to be non-Aryan, is concerned with this very point. The miracle of the teaching stirs the faculty of discernment and furnishes a new and accurate measure of all values. We can see that the effective aim of Buddhism was to discriminate between different natures, for which the touchstone was the doctrine of awakening itself, a discrimination that could not do other than stimulate the spiritual bases that originally had themselves been the sole justification of the Aryan hierarchy. In confirmation of this is the fact that the establishment and diffusion of Buddhism never in later centuries caused dissolution of the caste system. Even today in Ceylon, this system continues undisturbed side by side with Buddhism, while in Japan, Buddhism lives in harmony with hierarchical, traditional, national and warrior concepts. Only in certain Western misconceptions is Buddhism, considered in later and corrupted forms, presented as a doctrine of universal compassion, encouraging humanitarianism and democratic equality. Buddhism is essentially aristocratic. We can see this in the legendary story in the canonical text, where the divinity Brahma Sahampati, in order to induce Prince Siddhartha not to keep to himself the knowledge he had obtained, points out to him the existence of beings of a nobler kind, capable of understanding it. The Buddha himself finally recognizes this in these terms: "And I saw, looking at the world with the awakened eye, beings of noble kind and of common kind, acute of mind and obtuse of mind, well endowed and ill endowed, quick to understand and slow to understand, and many who consider that enthusiasm for other worlds is bad. There follows a simile, as some lotus flowers grow in deep, muddy water, as others push up towards the surface of the water, yet others emerge from the water and stand up free from the water. Thus there are, in contrast to the mass of people, beings of a nobler kind." Buddhism appeared in abnormal conditions in a particular traditional civilization. It is for this reason that Buddhism placed emphasis on the aspect of action and of individual achievement, and it is also for this reason that the support offered by tradition, in its most restricted sense, was held of little account. Prince Siddhartha stated that he himself had attained knowledge through his own efforts, without a master to show him the way. So, in the original doctrine of awakening, each individual has to rely on himself and on his own exertions, just as a soldier who is lost must rely on himself alone to rejoin the marching army. Thus, Buddhism, if a comparison of various traditions were being made, could legitimately take its place with the race that elsewhere we have called heroic, in the sense of the Hesiodic teaching on the Four Ages. We mean a type of man in which the spirituality belonging to the primordial state is no longer taken for granted as something natural, for this tradition is no longer itself an adequate foundation. Spirituality has become an aim to him, the object of a reconquest, the final limit of a reintegration to be carried out by one's own virile efforts. The recognition of that which is beyond both being and non-being opens to aesthetic realization possibilities unknown to the world of theism. The fact of reaching the apex, in which the distinction between creator and creature becomes metaphysically meaningless, allows of a whole system of spiritual realizations that, since it leaves behind the categories of religious thought, is not easily understood, and above all, it permits a direct ascent, that is, an ascent up the bare mountainside, without support and without useless excursions to one side or another. This is the exact meaning of the Buddhist ascesis. It is no longer a system of disciplines designed to generate strength, sureness, and unshakable calm, but a system of spiritual realization. The test in Buddhism has various stages. From the most immediate forms of experience, the disciple proceeds to higher levels, to supersensible horizons, to universality, to celestial worlds, where the question is repeated: are you this? Can you identify yourself with this? Can you satisfy yourself in this? Is this all that you wish? The noble being always ends by answering in the negative, and then the revolution occurs. The disciple leaves his home, renounces the world, and takes the ascetic path. In Buddhism, the importance of the moment is stressed in every way. Knowledge in a text is likened to a flash of lightning. One is exhorted to rise and awaken when one perceives one's own passiveness, one's own indolence, without letting the moment pass. If the right moment is allowed to pass, that moment when one would have been able to overcome the force to which both men and gods are subject, the demon of death will reassert his power. One who is still an Aryan spirit in a large European or American city, with its skyscrapers and asphalt, with its politics and sport, with its crowds who dance and shout, with its exponents of secular culture and of solar science and so on. Among all this, he may feel himself more alone and detached and nomad than he would have done in the time of the Buddha, in conditions of physical isolation and of actual wandering. The greatest difficulty in this respect lies in giving this sense of internal isolation, which today may occur in many almost spontaneously, a positive, full, simple and transparent character, with elimination of all traces of aridity, melancholy, discord or anxiety. Solitude should not be a burden, something that is suffered, that is borne involuntarily, or in which refuge is taken by force of circumstances, but rather a natural, simple and free disposition. In a text we read, "Solitude is called wisdom. He who is alone will find that he is happy."